Bonjour, hi. I am your least favorite Drag Race content creator, Jer. We are talking about Canada's Drag Race vs. the World Season 2 cast today, as that cast just dropped the other day. As a twist, I'm gonna be talking about them in the order in which I believe they'll probably be eliminated from the season. This is with no shade. This is not with any tea spill or Reddit reading or anything. I don't think you're cool if you've read Reddit spoilers. Nobody thinks you're cool for reading Reddit spoilers. Get all that energy out of here. So if you're gonna be like, well, I read on Reddit that this person goes home here, I don't care. And I'm gonna be basing why I think people are gonna go home when they do off of last season of Canada versus the World, and if they follow similar challenges to that. So last year's very first challenge was a girl group. Out of this cast, there's a couple we've seen that struggle in girl group choreography situations. And of those girls that might land in the bottom, I think the most likely candidate to go home first would be Eureka. Eureka's now here for the 4th time on Drag Race, and that has been a big point of contention with a lot of fans, as queens that have had multiple chances are on this particular season, and some are even at their 4th chance. I personally don't have a big problem with someone coming back multiple times, especially for an All-Stars adjacent season. You want some of the best of the best. My biggest problem only happens when you've made it to top 3 or 4 every single time you've come back. Yes, Eureka went home pretty early in her first season, but I think it's pretty obvious that she was slated to go towards the end. But Eureka came back into 10 and got into top 4. Eureka came back into All-Stars and got into top 4. So I feel like the girls there in the room are going to recognize that and be cognizant of the fact that Eureka is very good television and probably would go pretty far. I feel like they would eliminate her early in the same way that they did with Mayhem coming back multiple times. I'm not super bothered by Eureka's presence here, but I'm also not super entertained by it either. I'm very meh about her presence here. I would have loved to have seen somebody else. The next queen I think will be eliminated is Kenna. I have not seen this particular performer before. I don't know their season. I'm not familiar with their drag, but I am familiar with the fact that they are a pork chop queen, which we saw what happened with Gothie and Naysha. Pork chop queens are often pork chop queens for a reason. However, I don't think Kenna is going to get a Gothie edit. I have a feeling she's gonna get a Naysha edit. Survive one decent enough episode and then out the very next. Can't imagine that a lot of the girls in the room also know who this person is. And if we can base anything off of pork chop queens in general, they don't tend to do very well in the competition. And it's not because they're bad drag queens, it's that they didn't get a lot of time on the show the first time to really understand the ins and outs of making TV. They don't have those ropes down like some veterans like Eureka and Alexis and Kennedy do, where their first time they were obviously very green, but they managed to figure out their way through the show. People like Fierce and Lemon came into the show knowing how to navigate entertainment and television very specifically. So I just don't know if Kenna is going to be able to do that. And if it's a snatch game, she could do well, but I feel like snatch game tends to favor people that have English as their first language. Last season, the 3rd challenge was a ball. There's a big group of girls in this cast that cannot sew, and there's a good handful that can. I think next out would be LaPhil. I know, shocker, you might think it was Cheryl, and I do think that Cheryl's not gonna do very good here, but I also don't think that LaPhil is going to do good in either of the previous 2 challenges, and then I think it'll just be a situation of you've been doing bad, and here you are again, so it's time to get the chop. LaPhil is an odd pull for this particular group, but I also feel that same way about Kenna and Kennedy and Eureka. I think some of these girls are really great pulls for this particular season, but LaPhil was a weird one. I think from that particular season, I would have loved to have seen Black Peppa. LaPhil almost feels like cannon fodder in the same way that they brought in Naysha into All-Stars 8 or Mrs. Kasha Davis. This is not someone who's on their radar to go to the end. It's just someone to help support some of the bigger players in the game, and that feels bad to even say out loud, but Drag Race does that. The production team does that. They bring people in to go home early to support who they want to make it to top 4. And I feel like LaFilla is going to be LaFiller. Last season in episode 4, they did a comedy challenge, and there are a lot of girls here that I don't think would do very well in a stand-up situation. If they made it a roast, perhaps they could really turn some heads. So in that situation, I think Kennedy would be out next. Kennedy Davenport is a really fierce queen, and I think up until this episode, I think she'd have a lot of highs and lows, especially navigating the Vegas Untucked. She's had a little more experience under her belt working in television, and I think Kennedy really knows the ins and outs of Drag Race, but same with Eureka and Alexis, she's had multiple opportunities. So if she doesn't perform spectacularly all the time, same with Alexis and Eureka, they're going to be out early, and the girls are not going to keep them there because they already have seen them. They haven't seen some of these other girls ever before on TV. So I feel like Kennedy would probably be out at this point in the competition if she landed in the bottom. Kennedy's another weird pull for this group, but I do think that her television presence is really strong, and I'm very excited to see Kennedy Davenport on my television again. She's one of those people like Alexis that I could just see over and over again because she's so authentically her and doesn't have a filter. I feel like Brooke will appreciate Kennedy's presence on set. I just don't know how much Kennedy is going to appreciate Brooke's critiques or feedback, because Brooke doesn't have the same accolades that someone like RuPaul does. So when Kennedy's being judged by Ru, she can really take in those critiques because Ru is on a very high platform. To Kennedy, Brooke is probably a colleague, in the same way that a lot of the Canada girls are colleagues with Brooke. So that power dynamic is very hard to get over for some of them, and applying those feedbacks that Brooke is trying to give them to be better in the competition. I just don't know if Kennedy will be able to apply those and be able to actively see growth as far as TV is concerned. So I feel like Kennedy will be kind of a mid-out. In episode 5, it was an acting challenge, and I really worry for what this acting challenge is going to look like, because by this point in the competition, most of the people that are left kind of hit and miss. I think at this point is when Fierce would be out. We would have a situation where if you're not in the top, you're in the bottom, especially if they do a beaver format, which I could really see them leaning in on. And I think if it was between Alexis, who probably would do pretty well up until this point, and maybe Cheryl, who probably would underperform, and Fierce, who is a little prickly, I think they would choose to eliminate someone who's not as harmonious in the workroom, in the same way that Hannah eliminated Scarlett for being a prickly force in the workroom. I personally didn't see what Scarlett was doing that Hannah was so off-put by, but I could definitely see that happening, and I feel like this is where she would go. I'm so excited to see Fierce. I cannot wait for her runways, and I think that she is going to absolutely kill it once again. This is gonna be a really freaking cool season for her because she'll have a lot of great opportunities to show us what we loved about her the first time, or at least what some of us did. Some people don't like Miss Fourthalicious, and if she goes out at this point, she can rebrand as Miss Fifthalicious. So that leads us to our top 4, where I believe that Cheryl will absolutely be there, and I think her time in the competition will be a little turbulent, a lot of ups and downs, especially with the design challenges and the acting challenges, but I think Cheryl will really succeed and fly during things like Snatch Game and in the girl groups. I think Cheryl is a force, and I think it's disappointing that we didn't get to see her longer in UK versus the world. And I think she was really criminally underlooked her first time that she was on Drag Race. I think Cheryl is it. I think she's mother, and I'm excited to see her and what she's going to do this time around. In the top 4, I also believe Alexis Mateo will be up there. That's me being super biased because I love Alexis Mateo, and I think she should have won every single season that she was ever on. I think Alexis is multi-talented, super funny, has great fashion sense, has a really strong aesthetic in who she is, has a really tailored version of what her drag looks like and knows how to present that to TV. Plus, Alexis is good entertainment. You cannot deny that some of the best memes we've ever had on the show, like Bam and Act a Fool, those came from her. Alexis is television. Even her daughter, Miss Vanjie, giving us backwards Miss Vanjie. That is Alexis Mateo's lineage. Also in the top 4, who I believe potentially could take the crown, would be Tyomi. Tyomi is an icon. And when she came in to Canada 1, I think she was really overhyped to the point where I think she wasn't able to see past the hype that the girls were giving her and be able to take in the criticism. Sometimes when you have a lot of expectation and pressure, it's hard to hear any other feedback or anything that is coming at you. You sort of gas yourself up to a point where you feel like you are not living up to what you need to be. We've seen that happen with really iconic queens like Tempest du Jour. We've seen that happen to queens like Nina West in her original season. We've seen this happen to many a queen who had a long lineage behind them. And I think that Tyomi going out as early as she did really is going to light a fire under her to do even better this time around. So I'm so excited to see Tyomi. Last in top 4, who I think is also a strong contender to win, is Lemon. I love me some Lemon, the bona fide raptress of the entire Drag Race franchise, which is funny because she's the whitest girl of all of them. Lemon is fierce, and it sucks that RuPaul decided that she didn't like her and wanted to boot her out so early in UK versus the world, because Lemon really did not do as bad as people like Baga did, or Juju, or Blue, or really anybody that was there. Lemon had one of the best presentations that was there. Maybe her runway wasn't as fierce as some of the others, but she certainly was not bad enough to go home. I think Lemon's gonna do well in every challenge. Lemon was great in her acting challenges. She was good in Snatch Game. She was good in the performance challenge. Lemon just struggled in designing, but I think that was down to a confidence thing. And I think Lemon will be able to refine those skills that were there when she was in Canada 1 and be able to really elevate that for this current season. So I think that it's going to be down to Lemon and Tyomi, and I think it's gonna be a really fierce battle at the end. As much as I want my queen Alexis Mateo to win, I don't see a world where they're gonna give the crown to a non-Canadian. And even though I really want Alexis or Cheryl to win, I also really want Tyomi and Lemon to win. So I'm excited to see what happens this season. Who do you think is top 4? Who are you most looking forward to seeing from this group? I will be covering this season because I am positive it will be exponentially more interesting than what is going on in All Stars 9 right now, which I have lost all steam and interest in up until this point. It doesn't feel conducive for me to come in and just complain to all of you about why I hated the episode. But thank you for watching, and I will see you very soon. See you on the flip. Hey, thank you so much for watching. If you liked the video, make sure to click that like button. And if you want to see more, hit subscribe. Goodbye.